Good evening, and welcome to the Raven House of Mysterious Happenings. What's your favorite scary movie? Now, there's a question that has earned legendary status since the release of the horror film Scream back in 1996. In that film, a killer in a scary costume targeted a group of teenagers, some of whom were very well versed in horror movie trivia. Not only was Scream an effective mystery thriller, but it also deconstructed, in a humorous way, the rules for surviving a horror film. 2 sequels followed, which made up the original Scream trilogy. Not only did a new killer don the scary costume in each film, but the rules of survival were always expanded on. Scream 2 dealt with surviving a horror sequel, while Scream 3 was about surviving a horror trilogy, a rare event in movies. Now, 10 years after the events of the trilogy, a new chapter and a new killer has come to Woodsboro, and both the survivors of the previous films, as well as a new generation of teenagers, must figure out how to survive in a story where all the rules have been reinvented. Scream 4. Now, this film is a horror mystery thriller from Dimension Films, and it stars from the original Scream trilogy Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox. In addition, we have some new people joining the cast, including Emma Roberts, Hayden, Panettiere, and Allison Brie. The film is written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven. Both men also worked on the original Scream trilogy. The film opens with Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, returning to her hometown of Woodsboro after being away for 15 years. She's on a book tour where she's written a successful self-help book and has come to town as part of the book tour. However, once she gets in town, she learns of a double murder that happened the night before, where 2 teenage girls were killed, and it seems that a killer using the ghost face motif has returned. She learns this from Sheriff Dewey Riley, played by David Arquette, and Sidney also meets up again with Gail Weathers, who is now married to Sheriff Dewey Riley. Sidney goes to stay with her Aunt Kate and her cousin Jill, and Jill has a friend named Kirby, and there is also a lady named Rebecca Walters, who is Sidney's personal assistant. Sidney herself then receives a phone call from someone using the ghost face voice, who the voice once again is done by Roger Jackson, as in all the previous films, saying that, welcome home, Sidney, you're a survivor. Well, what good is it to be a survivor if everyone nearby you is dead? So Sidney realizes that the killer is once again targeting her. She's not sure why. She goes to Dewey for help and, of course, tries to keep her family and friends safe while trying to find out who the killer is. The film itself, I really enjoyed. This was really a treat to see. The original Scream trilogy, I thought, was really extraordinary, as both as a scary franchise and plenty of humor as well, and also some intriguing mystery elements. And I will say that Scream 4 is no different. I think having Wes Craven directing, bringing back the original cast to play the same characters, and everything just kind of made it seem, kind of new and new in some way, but also kind of, recognizable in others. So it's like it's kind of a recognizable story, but it has a fresh take on it. I think the most interesting element here is Kevin Williamson, who wrote it. This is not about surviving a horror film or a horror sequel. This is about surviving a horror remake. whoever this killer is seems to be patterning the murders on the original Woodsboro murders and attempting to do their own version of it. It's a pretty interesting, fascinating, and terrifying concept. The film definitely works as a whodunit. There's plenty of red herrings and plenty of suspects. There's also a very strong body count. One thing to keep in mind, this is an R-rated film. The killer, like in the previous films, he wears the costume and he uses a hunting knife, but he's very intense. The murders, there's quite a few of them. They're very brutal, and they're very intense and somewhat bloody. It's not overly gory, but it's definitely the intense and the brutality is there, and that really really upped the stakes in the film. I think in some respects helped make the film more scary, and then the lighthearted moments, the kind of the comedy between, kind of was an interesting balance, but it really kind of made it all work. So I can highly recommend the film, definitely as a horror film, and for fans of the Scream trilogy, you will not be disappointed. This is a very strong sequel done by people who have, been working on this film franchise from the beginning, and they know what they're doing, and it's a great film. For the mystery fans out there, I think it's really worth seeing. I think Scream as a franchise is very important, both in horror and in mystery thrillers. It's definitely a whodunit. Once again, who is the killer and why is this culprit doing what they're doing? And so it works on that level as well. So yes, I can highly recommend Scream 4. I think it's a great film, very important. There's some great acting throughout, both by the veteran cast and the new people are also very good. So it works all around. It really works. And just understand it's R-rated for a reason for the brutal murders, which get a little bloody. But other than that, though, it's a great film and definitely worth seeing. One note I would make, though, if you haven't seen any of the previous Scream films, you might want to check those out first, only because Scream 4 does kind of give away something of what happened at least in the first film, because in essence it's someone trying to remake the original film, or the original Stab movie within the movie that was based on the first film. So it is kind of a film series you kind of have to watch in order, but it does. But again, that's probably the best way. But but they're all good and they all work as mysteries, as whodunits, and just they're really special. They've taken the teen slasher genre and really made it good, and really made it kind of like for a smarter and more involved audience. So it's definitely worth seeing. Well, that's about it. Thank you, as always, for listening.